We are reading Parshas Bo, which is the culmination of the plagues and getting ready to leave Egypt, as Paro finally gives in after the plague of the firstborn. And this Parsha has three plagues: the plague of locusts, the plague of darkness, and the plague of the firstborn, the death of the firstborn. And the plague of darkness is kind of one of the more interesting plagues because it's different than all the others. One thing it's different is all the other plagues were 7 days long, except for obviously the plague of the firstborn. This one was only 6 days. Um, but also, we are told that the way the plagues were structured was that they should have gotten worse, that each one was building on the other, and it was a process of getting the Egyptians even more and more suffering and feeling that, oh, maybe they should let the Jewish people go. Paro, with more pressure on Paro. And the plague of darkness seems to be an anomaly because at first glance, it does not seem to be such a severe plague. After all, what it was, so it was dark. Okay, it's dark. There wasn't anything on their bodies that was being. They weren't in pain. There was no smiting the ground like the lice, etc. There was nothing that was happening. It was dark. The darkness itself, we are told, was not normal darkness. We perceive darkness generally as the absence of light, right? So at night, if you don't have any lights, it's dark. The sun is gone, and maybe there are stars, but that's about it. If you don't have any electric lights, right? It's the absence of it. You go into a room with no windows. You close the door. It's pitch black. However, in such a room, if you turned on a light or you lit a match, lit a candle, all of a sudden there would be light in the room. The plague of darkness, we are taught, the Torah says, "V'yamesh choshech," you will feel it. It was a tangible darkness. It wasn't merely the absence of light. It wasn't the same darkness that we have every night. It was a darkness that was specifically tangible, that even if they had lit candles, they still would not be able to see. It was a miraculous darkness. And the way the Torah describes it is that the first 3 days it just says that they couldn't see each other, and the second 3 days they couldn't even move. They couldn't get up. It was so thick, the darkness, that they literally were stuck in whatever position they were when that last section started, when the last 3 days started. So we see that it is actually different, yet it's still not clear that it's more challenging in terms of more painful than the others. So there are a number of different explanations about this plague. One interesting idea that I saw was by Rebbetzin Slovi Young Wolf, who mentions the idea that the Torah tells us they couldn't see each other. Lo ra'u ish es achiv. One person couldn't see his brother. And she says that the idea of one person not being able to see another person is a challenge for everybody. I mean, as we have to be able to see each other, not just physically see each other, but also emotionally see each other. We have to be able to connect with other people. And when we're not able to connect with other people, then it's very difficult for human beings. People need that social contact. And along this line, I saw a very interesting explanation, which was actually I took it from the Saudi Rabbi Yitzchak Kamenetsky from the Greater Washington Kollel, who brings down from a Rabbi Shapsi Yerlovitz. He says that the previous plagues, the first 8 plagues, so they were very challenging. They were very difficult. They couldn't have water. The animals, there was hail, all kinds of different things that were boils on their body, right? All very, very difficult plagues. Yet, because they were able to interact with each other, they could at least have the pain, misery loves company. There's a certain amount of comfort you can get, a certain amount of solace you get from the fact that I'm with other people. Not only are they also suffering, but the fact that I can connect with my family, I can connect with other people I know, and that gives me a little bit of extra strength to be able to deal with my challenges. But when I'm all by myself and I have challenges, then it becomes even a greater challenge. So we know some people do like to be alone, but that concept of being alone is when everything's going well. When everything's going well and you want to have some alone time, that's fine. But when things are challenging and you're alone, then the challenge becomes that much more difficult. And in the case of the darkness, that's what changed, is because each person, not only couldn't they see, but then they couldn't even move. And I would venture to say that they maybe even couldn't even hear each other, because in the first 3 days, it's true they couldn't see each other, but they probably could communicate. They could move around, they could touch each other. The second 3 days, they couldn't move at all, so you felt like you were all by yourself. And I would hypothesize that they couldn't hear each other either, because if the darkness was so thick that light couldn't penetrate it, it probably had the same thing that sound couldn't penetrate it. And therefore, the isolation that they felt made this plague that much more challenging. And we see this idea, though, that being by yourself, being isolated, not having anyone else to communicate with is a very difficult situation. And as people who we see people like that, we know people like that, and what can we do for those people? And we people who are shut-ins, people who are ill and they can't get anywhere, right? So people like that. If we are able to reach out to those people, just even if it's just a phone call, a visit, an email, whatever it is, creating the communication with people who are on their own really is going to make a connection that for them is going to make a huge difference. And then they won't have that feeling, because generally people like that are probably not just the fact that they're isolated, it's they're also dealing with other stresses in life, whether it be medical, emotional, etc. And combined with their being isolated makes it that much more difficult to bear. And if we are able to reach out to people that we know, then we would be able to make their lives that much more easy to bear in a sense, and be able to deal with the challenges that they face in a much better way. So let's use the message of the darkness to be able to encourage ourselves to be able to reach out to more people so that they don't feel so alone in the dark. Well, have a great Shabbos, everyone.